And I know there's one more somewhere. There it is. And there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back live with Brain Food from the Heartland. The Louis B. Free radio show is just talking 60s music with a young man who surprised me with his knowledge of 60s music. I'm delighted to have Tom Angleberger back on the show. You're just wonderful, Tom. I always have a blast with you.
Louis, thanks for having me back on the show. It's very exciting to be here. And are we going to talk 60s music the whole time? Because
no.
Because I'd be glad to.
Yeah, well, we'll do that some other time. We could talk music sometime. That would be a blast. Seriously, I would love that. I'd love to find out more about your musical tastes, etc. As such a young guy.
I have a feeling that you and I overlap a lot in our musical taste.
From our conversation earlier, I would tend to agree.
Maybe so.
Yeah, I just, probably actually. I can't ask you how young you are, can I? Approximately. I know you're many decades.
It's a closely kept secret.
I see that on your website. That cracks me up.
The reason for that is that I go out and I do book events where I'm trying to talk to kids about stuff, about books and everything. And I don't want them to know that I'm like old enough to be their grandfather. You know what I mean? I'm trying to like play along like, hey, I'm just like a big goofy kid. And in truth, I'm an old person. And I don't want them to know that. I'm trying to keep up that illusion just for half an hour and then I go collapse.
You've got to hang out with people older than yourself. And I've told this story probably 100 times on the show. I'm going to abbreviate it for you. I was at a food court with a guy that I knew. We were going to meet some other people, and he's ordering. And then he says, and get a cup of coffee for the kid. And somebody's pointing behind him. I'm behind him, but I'm looking behind me. And he turns to me and he said, you drink coffee, don't you? I said, wait a minute, Harry, I'm the kid. He said, how old are you? I said, I'm almost 60. He says, I'm almost 90. You're the blanking kid. So when you hang around with older people, you remain the kid.
That's awesome.
So hang around with older people. Hang around with me. I love talking with you. So I want to talk about your new book, which was just released on Tuesday. Your new book. But first, I want to get into your background and chat a little bit. Tell us. Okay, take me back. Take me back to you growing up. I don't think I've asked you that before.
Well, actually, you know what, Louis? The book that I've got that just came out, it actually is all part of me thinking about when I was a kid. So if you want to go back in the time machine with me, think about the late 70s, okay? And like Star Wars had just come out. Star Trek was in reruns. And everybody was talking about Star Wars and Jaws. Now I had not seen Jaws, but I had seen Star Wars and Star Trek. And so they started coming out with these joke books. And the jokes, these joke books are filled with cartoons about astronauts and Darth Vader and R2-D2 and these silly jokes. Like an example of a joke would be an alien is looking for a trash can. And so he throws his garbage into R2-D2 because R2-D2 looks like a trash can. We're talking about that quality of humor. Another one would be Spock is sharpening his ears in a pencil sharpener.
Oh God,
okay, so these are jokes. These are jokes for kids about the movies that had just come out. And I found one of these books. Now I'm loving the movies that are coming out, but I'm miserable at this time in my life. I had a really bad year when I was in the 4th grade, really tough. You know, my teachers didn't know that I was autistic. I didn't know that I was autistic. And so the problems I was having in class, nobody understood what was going on. I didn't understand what was going on. Teacher didn't understand what was going on. It was just everybody was unhappy, except for I found this book of these absolutely terrible space jokes. And it lit some fire in me, and I started drawing cartoons kind of based on these outer space jokes. And in fact, I started drawing giant space amoebas, and I drew them and colored them in with rainbow colors. And it was like art therapy, but I didn't know I needed art therapy. I'm not even sure people knew about art therapy at the time. But that helped me through that tough time, and it set me on this path to becoming a cartoonist and an author and an illustrator and all of that. So it actually all fits together, Louis.
That's interesting, Tom, because when you say that about the difficulty in fourth grade, yet you were able to find how do I want to say this? A healthy way out, a healthy way to yourself.
Right.
Not out, but a healthy path for you, creative, healthy path. And you're probably right about art therapy. Again, I don't know. I know that we have a Helms Foundation in this area that works with art and young people and people that have been incarcerated, et cetera. But I don't know. I'd have to look up when the term, I'll air quote, no one's going to see art therapy.
Yeah.
Came around.
Yeah, I don't know when it started either, but I discovered it on my own by accident in the fourth grade, thanks to these really dumb joke books. And so to continue that, I figure there's kids out there today that are having a tough time. Maybe like me, they're on the autism spectrum. Maybe COVID has changed things and they're having a tough time getting restarted. Who knows? You know, it's not my business why they're unhappy. My business is to try to give them some happiness. And so I've written a dumb joke book full of the dumbest gags I could think of, but for today's kids, based on more recent movies and more recent books. So whereas, you know, when I was a kid, I was laughing at like a Star Trek joke. Today's kids might be laughing at a Harry Potter joke or a Jurassic Park joke or something like that. So I filled these books full of jokes about the stuff that the kids love and that I love. And I'm hoping that they get a kick out of it the way I got a kick out of those books long time ago.
And you don't know who is in again, a kid, a difficult space. I was going to say a dark space that gets joy, so much joy out of what you share with the world. You could never know, but it's
so true. You really don't know. And it is wild to think about, you know, when you're in school, it's all like, at least this is the way I was all, well, here's my list of problems and everybody else is perfect. And you grow up and you realize it wasn't like that. Everybody else had their problems too, and we're dealing with stuff at home that you never saw. And so, you know, there's a book for almost every kid, probably for every kid that can help them. And that might be what they need. And for some kids, what they need is like a big mind expanding book, or a book that's really smart or clever or beautiful or touching or emotional. And those people should not bother looking at my book at all. Just go ahead and go to a different section of the bookstore.
Actually, I think they should. I love this. And your new book, the two-headed chicken, and the illustration on the front's great because the chicken's saying, we're in a graphic novel. I love that. How many books now? I mean, you've got books circulating millions all around the world.
It is crazy. I've written well over 30 now, or illustrated. And you know, the first time I talked to you, it was the first book in my Geronimo Stilton graphic novel series. That was when I first met you.
Yeah.
And
on a radio tour, right? It was.
Yeah, I was doing a radio tour, and I talked to the worst person in the world, and then I called into you, and I was like, "This is the best person in the world."
Oh, thank you.
It was quite a day. It was quite a day.
It was great. It was great. It was great, and I love the illustration that you said. It's Geronimo Stilton. That was Sewer Rat Stink.
That's right. And since then, I've done 4 of those Geronimo Stilton graphic novels, which I just drew the pictures for. The stories were already written, and I got to go through and just draw the pictures. And another book that came out in the meanwhile was I did a Donald Duck graphic novel that I wrote as somebody else illustrated. But I had never achieved my dream of writing and illustrating a graphic novel. And
You
that's
have
what this
now.
book
Oh,
finally is. I've been working towards this since I was that little sad kid in 4th grade, drawing giant space needles. I've been working towards this. And Tuesday, it finally happened. My very own graphic novel. I wrote it and drew it. And luckily, we got somebody better than me to do the colors because I'm not very good with colors. But I wrote it and drew it and had a ball. And so now I got to wait and see if anybody else likes it.
I love it. I have a blast with your stuff. And by the way, we've got to mention your wife, Cece Bell.
That's right. So Cece Bell, who's been on Louis' show before, if you haven't gotten a chance to see her book, you should check it out. It is the beautiful book that's very emotional and moving, and it's also helped a lot of kids. In fact, that's a book that definitely is helping kids. It's called El Dafoe, and it's about her experiences growing up when she lost her hearing when she was 4 years old. And she wrote it as a graphic novel, which gave her the chance to make herself a rabbit. And it sounds weird, but once you see it, it instantly makes sense. It makes perfect sense. It's this rabbit with this big ears, but the ears don't work right. And it changes her life, but it doesn't defeat her at all. And so she's awesome. And she wrote that great book. And she's also written many other books.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, we write a book together.
It's been animated on Apple.
That's right. It's there's a 3-episode like mini series that's on Apple TV. And it's my understanding you can see the first episode for free, I think, if you just want to check it out. And that's pretty neat. So she spent a long time turning that book into a TV show, and it's really it's sort of like a mini movie is what it really is like. And she's actually gone back to after she finished all that TV work, she's now dived back into making a new book for kids. It's an alphabet book. It's beautiful. Everything is hand painted. It's absolutely amazing. So she's
when will that be out?
Person. I'm running out of steam, and she's just going.
No, I don't think so. When is her new book coming out?
It's going to be a little while. She's still painting it. It's when you do an alphabet book, immediately that's got to be at least 26 paintings, and she actually is going to end up having to do 2 paintings for each letter. And so it's a lot of work. So that's going to be a little while, but we'll let you know about it, Louis. We'll make sure you get a copy.
Yeah, and I'd love to visit with you both again. I want to ask you again, the new book out, and I love the fact that you've written it and illustrated it. The book is dedicated to Bernie Roach. Do you mind telling me?
If you're interested. So, like I was saying, I've been drawing cartoons for a long time. And when I was in college, during the summers, I was working at a biological research station. And I set myself a goal of every day writing a cartoon for the scientists to read. I'm not sure how many of them read it, but I wrote them a cartoon every day. And Bernie Roach was one of those scientists, and I actually was helping her with her research. And she became a character in my running comic strip. And she was a good sport about it, and a lot of fun. And she was a person who was just a huge positive energy influence on me. I'm such a believer in positive energy, but when I was in college, I was Mr. Negative Energy. And I was very lucky to have this person in my life who is very positive. And so luckily I've still kept in touch with her. And I got to write to her and say, guess what? I'm dedicating a book to you. And that was a great moment.
She had to love that, right? She has to absolutely love it.
Well, she hasn't seen the book yet. So.
But knowing that you dedicated it to her, that there's a book coming out.
Yes, but it's awful. So what if somebody dedicated a book to you and it was a terrible book? I mean, really?
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. Dedicated, it's a bad book, a terrible book. That's funny, though. See, you are very funny. You've got a great sense of humor. What if that? And again, origamiyoda.com for more information, origamiyoda.com. The Roach, by the way, we were talking about 60s music. There were the Roaches, the Roach sisters. Suzzy's been on a number of times.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah, Suzzy Roach. Yeah. I'll have to send you a link to some of their stuff on YouTube. Yeah, the Roaches. I had the album, I don't even know when. Probably late 70s, I'm thinking that more so. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just her daughter just did Paul Simon's The Boxer, and it's beautiful. I could go on and on. Don't get me started on that. So in creating the new book that just came out 2 days ago, and we've got him on today, Tom Angleberger, bestselling author of Origami Yoda series, the new book, Two-Headed Chicken. I love how you develop, do I say the characters?
It is funny. It's hard to name them in the book. Since your readers can't see it, it literally is a two-headed chicken. Literally. And one head has a hat on, and that's the way you tell them apart. And in the next book, they're going to switch, and the other one's going to have on the hat. But
you're already planning the next
I think
book.
of them as head and other head. And other head is a character that's a lot like me, like completely stupid.
Oh, you're
and always like
self-deprecate on my show.
Always too excited and rushing into things without thinking things through, and
that's me.
Yeah,
that's me.
Acting like a yo-yo. And then the other one is that head's smarter sister. So there's other head, and then other head's smarter sister, all on the same body. So sometimes I call them the chicken, sometimes I call them head and other head. They don't have names. You can tell that this book is pretty weird and wacky, and I really resisted efforts to give it like a proper plot or any kind of point.
You know what I love in opening the book when it says, this is a work of fiction. Names, characters, universes, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or, if real, are used fictitiously. I love that. If real, if they're not just products, they're used fictitiously. That's great. I don't know. We'd call that, I guess, a disclaimer in radio, but it's great.
Right. Well, I think that's something that the lawyers wanted, but it really fits with the book, because the idea of the book is that the chicken can travel between different universes in the multiverse. And so somewhere out there, anything is possible. Something that's not possible in our universe is possible in a different universe. And if you can get to that universe, you'll run into it. And so, or you get to that universe, you'll run into it, and then you'll try to run away from it, because it might be something like a deranged green moose that wants to eat a chicken for lunch.
Michael Russo says, weird and wacky is always good. And Michael, I agree with you also. Again, you start the book, among the infinite universes in the multiverse, anything is possible. That's a wonderful message and again, the target is young people. That's a beautiful message, and goes back to what you shared with us and the difficulties, the struggles you had in fourth grade.
It is interesting to think that when you start thinking about the multiple universes and if anything is possible, but then there's also the idea that anything is possible within our own universe. And I sort of have another page, just a couple pages later, there's something I say in the first chapter is in the second person. I'm addressing the reader as you. And I have this line that I'm really pleased with. It says, in one universe, you're a famous rock star. In another universe, you are a famous country star. And in a lot of universes, you are really awesome, but not famous yet. And it's sort of like telling kids that, because the kids that are reading this book are not famous yet, but maybe they need somebody to tell them that they're awesome. And so I want them to believe that whatever else is true, in this universe that they're in right now, they're definitely awesome.
It's beautiful. And I love that. In some universes, you are reading this book, The Two-Headed Chicken. Some universes, you are reading a better book, Old Yeller. So, you know, you and I have something in common. We're both self-deprecating. And some, you know, it's interesting. I do it all. I self-deprecate all the time. But when I hear you kind of, you know, a better book, I don't want, what word bothers me, disturbs me. I just, because you're just such a wonderful young man. And in some universes,
this will take us back to old music again. You remember Sha Na Na?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I mean, they were at Woodstock and everything, but then they had that weird TV show they did, right? And in that weird TV show, they were always talking about how bad they were. And I was a kid watching that, and I asked my father, why do they keep talking about how bad they are? And he had to explain to me self-deprecating humor. That's when I learned about it, when I was like 7 years old, watching Sha Na Na. And so I've taken that as my motto.
That's interesting. Self-deprecating humor. I know I get called on it. I've had authors on that call me on it that have written books about how to develop yourself, you know, just self-development, et cetera. And I get called on it. One author, Kimberly Friedmutter, I was in the middle of a conversation with her. She said, Louis, you know, 8-year-old Louis is listening to what you say and writing down who he is. I still remember that. It was like, ow.
Wow.
But it works for me. I don't know how else to say it. I don't think, see, you're young. At my age, it's like, see, here's the old guy thing. I can't change it now. I'm too old, which isn't true, of course. When your empathy for young people, when I think about it, Tom Angleberger, you with what you experienced early in your life, go back to what you talked about in 4th grade. I feel that could have gone a number of ways, obviously, but obviously for the good and betterment, which is what you found, moving towards the light, doing it, you know, doing what you do and wanting to give to others that might be in a similar situation as you. And it also could go, I dare say, the other way. It could have gone the other way. And I like to believe that you chose the path that you're on. But again, having those difficult experiences can understandably, I don't know if I'm making any sense, put a negative aspect on someone's life. I guess that's
right. Yeah, that's very true. And like I said, I was very negative for a long time. But
understandably.
Yeah, but you know, meeting Cece turned that around in a big way. And you know, I used to work up in Ohio. I used to work at the lawnmower plant in Streetsboro, Ohio. They don't make whole lawnmowers. They were making lawnmower parts. So I used to make lawnmower parts in Streetsboro, Ohio. Now, you'd think that would have been a negative experience, but it was a very positive experience. And I came out of there with this much better attitude on life because I was working on an assembly line with this lady named Judy. And if you were to look at what went on in Judy's life, you'd say, boy, she's really been through some tough stuff. But every day we would go sit there, we would laugh and laugh for 8 hours while we were making lawnmower parts. And she would cackle and just have such a great time. And I ended up making very little money, walking out of there poor, but happy. And I got so much positive energy out of that. It was a real life-changing experience. So I always have a soft spot for Streetsboro, Ohio, and the lawnmower part factory, because I really gained a lot in my mental health there, believe it or not. And I made a lot of lawnmower parts. A lot of people started their lawnmowers pushing a switch that I helped, and me and Judy made that switch.
That's wonderful. Again, you look for, or you find the positive that you're looking for. I don't know if I'm saying it right, because again, you probably could hear other people at that same plant, and maybe they even encounter Judy that don't have the same perspective. And I love that perspective. I love when you were talking earlier about the Bernie Roach, the dedication, about Judy now, looking for those uplifting experiences. Again, I know
and it's so,
back to your fourth grade, you could have gone one way or the other.
yeah, it's so true, Louis. I feel like the one lesson I've learned is that, just like you just said, you can look for the positive and find it, or you can look for the negative and find it. And for a long time, I used to look for that negative and try to find it, and then sort of wallow in it when I found it. And thank goodness I changed my direction and started looking for the good stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Sure, absolutely. And again, it's what you're looking for. If you find what you're looking for the negative, it's certainly out there. You're looking for the positive, certainly out there also, especially you, young man. OrigamiYoda.com, and the new book that you'll have a blast with, Two-Headed Chicken. Do you feel it was a choice for you to look for positive because you were wallowing too much in negative? Because that can be a real downward spiral.
Yeah, I think it was a choice, but I also think it was, some real great people guiding me in that direction. It wasn't like I just woke up one day. It was running into people, some people that I even barely knew or met only one time, because I also used to be a newspaper reporter, so I had a lot of like one afternoon encounters with people, one afternoon of really intense talking to somebody, and then I never see them again. And yeah, some great people guiding me along. My parents were a huge positive influence on me. The people I met when I was working for the scientists, they were huge and positive. And then Cece has been just such a huge positive impact on my life. She's such an amazing person. One of these days, Louis, me and Cece need to get in the car and drive out there and meet you in person.
God, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. We'd have a blast. I've asked you before when you and Cece were on, but tell us, if you would, your love story. You and Cece.
Oh, well, we met in college. She was going to be an English major, but I talked her into becoming an art major because she was great at art. But she was also a really good writer, and that's why she's won the Newbery Honor Award, which I haven't even come close to. So luckily, she found a job where she could do both the art and the words, and she's really good at it. And so she was a big success at all this before I made it into the business. And then when I finally got into the business, I had two terrible bombs. My first books bombed really badly. But then luckily, my third book was The Strange Case of Origami Yoda. And there was something about that book that kids just grabbed it. And so that was a life changer for me. That was a big change. And it's given me the chance now to do books. I doubt if I had just shown up at a publisher and they'd never heard of me and I said, I want to do this Two-Headed Chicken book, I'm not sure that would have gone. But since I've done Origami Yoda and have that track record, it gave me that chance to finally achieve the dream of writing and drawing my first graphic novel. And I actually got to team up with my editor that I had done Origami Yoda with, who's another person who's been a huge positive influence on my life. And so we've got the team back together, and we made this book. And so that's about the story. I think there's some other weird parts to it. I used to be a professional juggler, and I've got a stack of failed projects a mile high. I've done a million things that I failed at, or sometimes I don't even like to think that I failed at them. It's just that no one else thought they were success.
Okay.
Not
They
that
were, you loved it. That's like my cooking. If I come up with the good, I love it, but nobody else does. And it's very different things. But a couple of things, Tom Angleberger, I want to ask you about that. And again, I love how you talk about Cece, and I appreciate you sharing that. You had your first two books failed, as you said, terribly.
Yeah.
Yet you chose to persevere. You chose to move forward with the third one, which again, millions of copies literally around the world. Millions, we can't even conceive, they say we can't even conceive of what a million is. Millions of copies. Tell me about pushing forward. Two failed projects, someone else might say, you know what, obviously this isn't for me.
Right. You know what? I've had a number of things in my life that were just timing working out. And one of them was after waiting for a long time. I don't know if your readers know this, but it's changed a little bit now because of email. But it used to be, if you wanted to get a book published, you mailed it to New York City, and then you waited and you waited and you waited. And I actually had gotten lucky, and I had gotten a really positive message from an editor, but he wasn't ready to say yes yet. He had to do something. He had to think it through or talk to other people or something. So I had this great almost yes, and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. And finally, I decided to check in with them again. It's all, you don't want to bug them. You're afraid that
Right, you got that balance, right?
Yeah, I finally decided to check in with them again. I send them an email, and I get an automated reply back that says he's no longer with the company. He was just gone. And so that would have destroyed me, except just a month or two before that, another writer that I had been working with, Michael Hemphill, he helped me find my agent. And my agent, who's Karen Wiseman, is this most wonderful person. She's so caring. When you hear about agents, lots of times you think about somebody who's like, show me the money or whatever.
Yeah.
This is not that person. This is like the friend that I needed, this person who was looking out for me. And so when that bad news finally came, I had luckily just found this person who cared about me and was going to take care of me and help me get published. And so she was there with me and helped me get those first two books published, but also helped me deal with the fact that things weren't going well, and helped me take this other idea, Origami Yoda, and get it moving forward, so that when the axe fell on my first book and I got this message that said, we're about to send the old copies to the recycling plant, which is really hard for an agent, for an author to hear. And old copies, they weren't even that old. I felt like we had barely given people a chance to read it, and they were already sending them to the recycling factory. I got that message, and it might have destroyed me earlier, but thanks to this amazing agent that I had, she had helped me, and we had worked this out, and we had gotten a great start on book 3. And so that's what helped me survive the crash and burn of books 1 and 2.
And she must be incredible, Tom Angleberger, because when you say that she encouraged you, stuck with you, an agent might say, again, I don't know, I haven't worked with a, but might say, you know what, maybe this isn't for you. Again, they're sending them the recycling shortly after they've been published, it hasn't been out that long. An agent might say, Tom, you're a really nice guy, and I think you're really talented, right? But maybe this isn't the field for you. Yet she encouraged you. She saw something. She saw that spark, something, obviously. I'd like to get her on sometime.
She's really wonderful. And you would get a kick out of her, Louis.
I would love to talk
very much. She's really wonderful. And she's still my agent and still helping me and still looking out for me as a person before the thinking about me as a producer of books or whatever. She's always thinking about me as a person. And that's just amazing. And not everybody's lucky enough to get an agent like that.
Sure.
I was, you know, Louis, when I'm talking to you, I start to realize just how lucky I've been. I keep saying, oh, I was lucky to meet Cece. I was lucky to work next to Judy at the factory. I was lucky to meet Karen. I've just been such a lucky person. And there's so much luck involved with becoming an author like this. And so I hope I'm grateful enough for it.
You're very grateful. I mean, I hear it at all our conversations, but Tom Angleberger, I start to wonder that we were talking earlier, you kind of find what you're looking for. You looking for negative people, you're looking for negative, or you are negative and you kind of attract other negativity. You keep talking about luck. And again, I had a professor on from, I think Harvard, wrote a book about luck many years ago. And I certainly don't know. Yet, is it luck? Are you focused on a certain path? You say you're lucky. My thought is also who the people that have inspired you and you have felt lucky to have met also feel lucky that they met you. I mean, that's a circle, right? I mean, you're positive. You know, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's nice of you, Louis. I'm not sure I can guarantee that everybody I've worked with thinks they were lucky.
Well,
I think a lot of people that I've worked with think that I was really loud and annoying.
See, the self-deprecation is just like I can relate. I can relate with the self-deprecation.
That's it.
I doubt that.
That's the objective truth. That's a verifiable fact.
I don't think so. But I think with like Karen Wiseman, she obviously saw something in you. And I think you probably inspired each other in that regard. Again, I'm the casual observer, but when I hear that about all that positive and you've looked for it and you've found it, you've been attracted to that. I know, certainly I'm not going to mention any names, certainly not in this town. I know someone that finds fault in a lot of things. And it almost feels to me, this is an older person, that they're looking for somebody that didn't check them out right at a grocery store, or just, and I hear it over and over. And, you know, trying to have a breakthrough with that person is difficult.
Yeah, that is tough.
So
And
again,
I've known people like that, definitely. And I also own a Chihuahua like that.
You own a
He's
Chihuahua,
always
negative.
for a reason to be angry with me. You know,
I
whatever I
doubt that.
do.
You've got a great sense of humor. I doubt that the Chihuahua is like that. Yeah. Looking for a reason to get angry at you? That Chihuahua's got to love you.
The Chihuahua loves Cece. And so anytime I move, he thinks his job is to protect Cece from, me getting a sandwich. He thinks he needs to protect Cece. So
that is a riot. That is a riot. I wonder what Cece would say about that. Maybe I'll have the opportunity to ask her sometime.
She can verify that one too.
She'll verify that, you think?
Oh yeah.
Again, with something like that, that's hilarious about the Chihuahua. When you, again, that positivity back to fourth grade and the difficult experiences you had and what you chose to do either consciously or I don't know. I don't know how the brain works. I'm still trying to figure it out. But it seems that that's where your focus has been and positive with all the difficulties. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the first two books that didn't do well, and you probably think I'm being kind to saying didn't do well because they were going to recycle them so quickly. Yet you persevered.
They did great as recycled material.
They did great with positivity and moving forward. And like I say, I'm sure that, again, back to Karen Wiseman, saw something in you that was positive and was encouraging because of that. That those energies I don't want to say feed off each other, but grow off of each other.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. And I'm sure it counts for authors and radio hosts and just about everybody else out there. It really makes a difference. And one thing I like about being an author and illustrator is that you can always find an opportunity to like promote another author or illustrator. That's or beautiful. Just say, hey man, I read your book, it was great. Or wow, your artwork looks so good. And I especially try to say that to people who haven't had the big success yet. You know, it's a very positive environment, the whole children's literature thing. And I feel like not all careers are in a positive environment, and I wish they were. And I don't know if you're in a environment that doesn't seem so positive, maybe you can be the one to help bring some positive energy into it, because you know, I mean, that lawnmower parts factory was kind of a dark, loud place, and Judy brought this light and this brightness to it that I wasn't expecting to find. And so maybe everybody out there could radiate that light and positivity as best they can. I know that's a tall order for people that are dealing with a lot of stuff.
We're all dealing with something.
Not everybody can roll out and be positive every day with all the garbage that's going on in the world. But if you can do it, if you can find the positive in a day, share that with somebody else.
That's a beautiful, beautiful philosophy and thought. And of course, everybody's going through something, everybody's got something. But again, when you try, you know, it's just those casual meetings with people, just people saying hello or excuse me or whatever seem to be more precious to me these days. I don't know if it's my age, if it's my age or COVID, going through COVID, or a combination, but just the little interactions that we have, the little positive interactions that I'm going to say choose to have. And my guess is Judy would say the same thing about you having light, because again, working in an environment like that, to find somebody else that's positive is got to be ideal, as opposed to, I hate this place and da 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 da. But actually, even though the work might not have been fun or enjoyable, you found someone there that you loved seeing every day. I'm so sorry that we're actually past the top of the hour. We barely talked about two-headed chicken, but we learned a lot more about Tom Angleberger. Hopefully you'll come back and we can talk more about two-headed chicken. Again, I love it. I know for children, I don't want to call it an escape from reality. It opens up new universes in my mind, and I still have that childlike wonder. And I love your work and your personality. You're amazing. You are truly amazing. I'm so honored to know you.
Louis, I think you are amazing. And your listeners don't know this, but Louis has reached out to me and my family so many times behind the scenes. He's such a great guy. If you're listening to Louis every day, you're listening to a great person who is a big positive light himself.
Now, I want to say something self-deprecating, but I don't want to be unappreciative.
Don't do it. 8-year-old Louis is listening. Don't
listen. Well, 8-year-old Tom is listening too. So I'll tell you what, we need to make a pact to try to. And see, here's the old age excuse. Well, you're young. You can change those behaviors. I'm an old guy. So Origami Yoda.com. Take a minute and tell us about the website.
Oh, yeah. OrigamiYoda.com is a place where you can find out about my books and where you can see the artwork that readers have made. And they've made thousands of pieces of origami and sent them to me. And they're all up on the website. And it's one of my proudest achievements is not the origami that I've made or the books that I wrote, but all the stuff that these kids have made.
I love the rabbit one that's on your website. I'm a big rabbit fan, and I love that. I love that. You are such an amazing guy. And again, I'm so honored to know you. I would love to, depending on your time, talk more about, just continue the conversation, talk more about two-headed chicken. I love when the chickens all like spread out. It's just the illustrations, and for you to illustrate and write. And see, you even gave that credit to the person that did the color. You're
Well,
very
he's really good. He's actually a
Oh,
much better. He's a better artist than I am. He's got his own stuff out. He's so good. But he was nice enough to take a break from his own stuff to color mine. His name is Joey Ellis, and he's really talented guy. If you look him up on Instagram, you'll see that his artwork is much better than mine.
Your artwork is amazing. You're a wonderful soul. So please come back and do this again. I know I bug you all the time, but let's do this.
Well, I'd love to come back, Louis. I have a great time every time.
Thank you, Tom Angleberger. Thank you so much. Say hi to Cece for me.
I sure will.
You're what an incredible young man, folks. Again, his heart, his soul, he is incredible. He's amazing. And I would urge you, again, you don't have to be a kid to read this book. Believe me, I love it.